This is part 2, modeling 48 Brattle Street in Revit. Now, we're looking at, we haven't drawn anything yet, right? I'm organizing the AutoCAD output, but it's worth the investment in time to lay out your system before you start modeling, so you have all your templates in place. One of the things you can see here, this drawing, okay, they're not vertically aligned with each other, right? So what appears to be level 1 here, I'm going to draw a ground line. Okay, there's a wide line that, let's say that represents my street level, right? The second half of this drawing here doesn't align vertically with this section, so I'm going to need a copy of this. In other words, the line that I just drew here in this side of the drawing, let me see if I can illustrate a little bit better. If I drew a box around here, that area, right? Now let's imagine that I were looking from left to right. So I'm standing at grid line E, and I'm looking toward that stair. So I'm going to argue that what I'm actually looking at in this section here, oops, is that area. Can we agree on that? That, make a little text note. That view, these views are the same. This one and that one, right? But they're not aligned vertically, right? So this thing on the left is not very useful to us unless I make a copy of it and then use that as a template in some other view. Also, I'm looking at a south elevation, so I'm looking at the building from H to A. Longitudinally, so I'm looking at a long section. So my elevations on either side, which are going to be the east or west, are actually represented by this part of the drawing. So let's go to, for instance, the east elevation. Okay, let's move the grid elements so that they're not hiding. Just move them past everything. Now, I'm going to need a link to that CAD section, and I'm using the left side of this. You know, if you wanted to be really particular, you could go into AutoCAD and edit the file and take out part of it, but we're not doing that. We want to preserve the integrity of that. So let's just, it's warning me that a link already exists, so I'm going to continue. None of the things are visible. Why? Imported categories or visible? All right, so there's the drawing the other way. I can't see it this way. It's a little bit tricky. So in 3D, let's go to the little 3D icon. So you can see we brought in copies, right? The first one is where it we wanted, right, long, left to right. You can see the AutoCAD, but I need this one to align on my east side. So I'm gonna unpin this and watch what I do here. A little bit of pyrotechnics. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. All right? So now when I go to my east elevation, a little bit beyond it, let's go back to, let's go to my site plan. And that's sort of overall view. So I can't see it because it's out here past my elevation marker. So I'm going to take that thing and move it roughly where it belongs. So what did I do there? There's the left part of the drawing. Let's go back to the east elevation. All right, it's way up high in creation, which is not where we want it to be. We did decide at level 1, we were looking at that stair. So I'm going to align to level 1, that. Does that make sense? All right, and that my grid line, my leftmost grid looking east, is actually that column line. So let's go back to the 3D view. And I'm pretty confident that I have lined up, right, everything that I need. There's a CAD drawing underneath, so you have to kind of visualize it. We're looking in 3D at things that haven't been modeled yet. But what's important is that we have the workings of a template, right? So I don't care about the back part of that elevation in my longitudinal elevation view, my south elevation. And I don't care about the right part of that in my my east elevation view. All right, so if I go to east, that is sectionally what I see if I were standing looking east. There are my levels. Right, these are all 3D right now. I'll just move them over, but we can adjust them. We may want to give these more meaningful names. At some point, we want to decide what the ground plane is, or what Earth level is, and I'm guessing it's actually that midway between level 1 and what now is labeled level 6. Let's go with that notion and call this grade. Level grade. We'll name the corresponding views. So we're going to have more views than we need But just so that everybody understands, so building grade is about 4 feet below level 1 here. We can displace all that. Making them all relative to each other. Actually, I can take everything in the model and move it 4 feet 6 inches vertically. Let's see what happens if we do that. Can we safely do that without affecting? So if I select everything in the model and move it in this direction, 4.5 feet. Now grade becomes 0, level 1 is 4.5 feet above. Yeah, that's gonna work for us. Let's see if that didn't adversely affect my south elevation. Yeah, there's a little note that I made, and now this line becomes my ground plane. I could actually go to my site plan and draw the Earth. Right? I could draw the topography, massing in sight, top of surface. I'm going to place 4 points outside the elevation drawings. Those are all at 0, 0 by default. Right? So if I finish that, and that becomes Earth, when I go back to these views, you can see that I modeled the Earth plane, right? It's occluding a view of the CAD file, but that's not important right now. I'm not going to let this go beyond 20 minutes, so that keep in mind, I have not yet modeled a single thing in Revit. I have just laid out my grid lines, my AutoCAD underlay templates. The only thing I modeled really was a representation of Earth, the topography surface, right? So let's save this as lesson 2. File save as BRATTLE Part 2. And then when I stop, that's where I'll stop. Okay. I think we are ready to start modeling columns, and we can tell from the section, probably from the plan as well. If I measure, I think I can measure the diameter of those columns. So this is telling me it's roughly 1/4. Do we have confidence in that notion? And the walls, the thickness of the walls and the stairs, a little over 8 inches, right? So that's all concrete work. So the columns and concrete walls and concrete slabs. So let's use 1/4 roughly as a round place, a single round column. Where am I gonna put it? I'm going to, let's go back to the plan view. And let's start at the intersection of H All right, let's make these numbers correspond. 5 and 6. These are numbered grid elements, so that one wants to be 6. This one wants to be 5. This one wants to be 4. Is that right? Goes all the way across. This one wants to be 3. And finally, that one's 2. Let's just align these. So we're neat. Might as well align these vertically. Right? Okay, so the intersection of H and 6, well, there's nothing there. But the intersection of H and 5, there's a round column. All right? Keep in mind, all this stuff isn't lining up because I took an image, a raster image, scaled it approximately, but oh, look at this. The CAD drawing actually appears to have the diameter of that. So let's go and architecture column, architecture. This is a split menu, so let's select architectural column, not structural. And let's select round column. If we don't have a round column, we have to load a family of round columns. Columns, round column. And what do we need for diameter? Not 6 inches, but 24, 12, 24 is too big, but that'll do for now, and we will modify the type. So let's take this column, edit type, let's duplicate, remember, duplicate, rename, and then change the properties. Duplicate, and let's make it a 1/4 is 16-inch column. 16-inch diameter. And 16-inch. Okay? So now we got the right column size, and that will do. And keep in mind, very delicate at this point, a column is a 3D element. When you draw it, it wants a base constraint and the top constraint. So right now it's going from level 1 to level 8. Let's quickly go over to 3D view and see what I've done. 1 to level 8. Okay, don't be deceived. Level 8 was, there's a column. Actually, it wants to go up to whatever the topmost level was that we want. Let's go to one of them. East elevation. That column wants to start at, let's rename level 6 basement. that column wants to start. Let's select the column again. The base level wants to be basement. Okay, so it's buried somewhere down there. And then the top of it wants to be level 5, or what we have is level 5 right now. All right, does that, everybody understand what's going on there? So these are one of the first decisions that you make when you're modeling things, so that, and if you have a high level of confidence in the integrity of what you started, you can replicate it, you can duplicate that to other places. Now, let's go back to level 1. Right, I can actually take that. There are tricks in Revit. You can select a grid and place things automatically, but let's assume that we want to draw another one of these, and we're going to place them at the grid intersections all around. So let's go to Architecture, Column. Sorry, Architectural Column. Not the 24 diameter, but we just created a 16-inch diameter one. Want to place, start it at basement. Top constraint is invalid for the levels, so we need a top constraint that's going to work for this. Level 5, is that what it wants for a top constraint? And where is it placing this? I'm going to have to draw at level 1. So that was actually the height of the column was up to level 5. It's got to be more than 9 feet. Let's see what happens. Let's draw it at intersection of G and 6. And another one. Right? So I can draw these at the intersection of these grid lines and then select them all and change the properties. So let's just draw a few and see what we have so far. So remember, the first one I drew is, basement up to level 5. The rest of these start at level 1. So I'm just going to select them all and make the basement a base constraint for those, right? Let's go back to level 1. It'd be useful to put a basement plan as an underlay for the basement level, but we haven't done that yet. So let's go back to level 1. Column architectural diameter up to level 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't occur until there again. And then we have one back there. back there. Strangely absent on this side because what's holding things up on the right side of the building closest to Story Street is probably these concrete walls. Right? And that's why we have grid lines that are aligned. I mislabeled number 3. So on this side, number 3 is actually in here. That should be 3. Now that's going to give me an error because I already have 3 in use. I don't know what this is, but it's not 3. Let's just make it 9 so I can relabel this one 3. And turn on the visibility of that side of the okay. Have I got all the columns that I can possibly draw? I think so. Let's go to the 3D view. Let's just select all the columns. Shortcut, select all. Base, let's start at the basement. There's our columns. So if I look at my south elevation, all I see is an array of columns, and I look at my east elevation, all I see is an array of columns, right? And actually up here, it looks like the walls extend beyond the roof, so we're gonna have to deal with that. But I wanted to keep these short. It's already 27 minutes, so let's stop at part 2.